I'm Greg Brunelle, and I'm one voice in emergency management. When I went to undergrad in SUNY Fredonia in the western part of the state, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my career and my life, but I knew I wanted to do something in public safety. I received a broad-based history and sociology dual major, bachelor's of arts degree, and then I became a social worker in an emergency room, in a moderately busy emergency room in upstate New York, dealing with the chronically mentally ill and families and patients in crisis, whether it was disease or trauma, domestic violence, child abuse, what have you. I did that for 7 years as a social worker, and really it was a wonderful opportunity at a young age to look at life from that view, to experience and come to understand our mortality and come to understand how fragile family and life can be. And that stayed with me throughout my entire career and throughout my whole life. At that same time, in 1998, we had a devastating ice storm, and I was a volunteer firefighter and EMT in the North Country as well. So I was involved on the hospital side, dealing with the crisis as a healthcare worker, and because many people couldn't get into the hospital, my position was then to make some decisions that were normally above my pay grade. So I became very involved in the response at the hospital to that crisis. And in the after hours, I was also involved as a local volunteer firefighter and EMT. That really tweaked my interest in emergency management. In 2001, the Jefferson County Office of Emergency Management was created. It had historically been the Civil Defense Office, and I was interested in emergency management. I applied for the deputy director position, and I was hired. So I started work in June 26th of 2001 as the deputy director for emergency management in Jefferson County, working in the fire coordinator, as the fire coordinator, the 911 coordinator, and the emergency manager. I anticipated when I took that job that I would learn a lot about natural hazards, deal with snow and ice events in the North Country, fires during the summer, cut my teeth in a more rural part of New York State and move on from there. And certainly the focus of emergency management at that time were on the natural hazards with the things that we experienced in this nation in the 1990s. Several weeks later, I found myself one of many county emergency managers who was brought here to the State Emergency Operations Center to work in support of the state response to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And I had the opportunity in October of that year to go down to the city and work in the pier, again in support of the state response to the tragedy. And as we all often say, that transitioned us from the natural hazard focus to now the all-hazard focus, which includes the man-made intentional acts. At the end of 2006, I applied for a job with State Emergency Management. And then in early 2007, I received a call from the director and asked to come in for an interview and join State Emergency Management as Deputy Director for Preparedness in May of 2007, and have been in this position since. As Deputy Director for Preparedness, I coordinate the agency's training and exercise planning section and our GIS capabilities. I work alongside the other sections in our response functions as we respond to and recover from disasters that happen across the state. Over the past 3 years, one of the things we focused on here is better coordinating our efforts between traditional emergency management and the Office of Homeland Security so that we truly are doing all hazards emergency management. The construct of emergency management, preparedness, response, and recovery certainly and has always included man-made intentional acts such as terrorism. So we've worked very hard in the last 3 years to marry up our efforts and synergize them with the Office of Homeland Security, I think, to great success. And now we find that we're bringing them into the fold of ensuring that whenever we engage in efforts to address mitigation, our planning efforts, and certainly our response efforts for natural disasters, that we have experts who are coming in to also look at it from a terrorism perspective or any type of all crimes perspective to make sure we're taking the most comprehensive approach to all of our planning efforts as possible.